Am I doing it? Good morning, church. We have elected to read our announcements before the service starts. And we're reading because, frankly, a lot of us have reached the point where we can no longer read anything that's, yeah, okay. The main thing I want to say right off the bat is next week, daylight savings time begins. Yeah, don't forget that it's spring forward. The Tombaugh Gallery exhibit opens today at 11, and we'll be going from to 1:30, where the artist is Julia Masaoka. Masaoka? I'll go with that one. And she will be attending, I believe. Please turn in all donation forms for the spring auction by Sunday, March 19th. If you have questions, contact Steve Hitchka or Carol Stanfield. And forms may be picked up, of course, in the lobby. On a final note, Robert Charles Weisberg, or as a lot of us know, Bob Weisberg, a former member who taught English as a second language, and a former member of this choir, has died. His wife Miriam is living in Redding, California, but their son Jeremy Meyer still resides in Las Cruces. If anyone knows how to contact him. All right. Um, I don't necessarily want any cash back right now. You doing this gathering, Sam?
That might be a good segue into let's put our phones in worship mode. Let's join together in singing Here Together by David Glasgow. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together.
I would like to officially welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces on this Dropsy Sunday. We welcome those of you who are in our sanctuary this morning and those who are joining us through streaming technology. Reverend Monroe Sycophus is our service leader, and I'm Haney Pearson, your service associate. Catherine Massey is our Director of Music, and Kelly Ingram is our Director of Religious Education. And usually, oh, okay, there you are. Our greeters today are Diane Lee, Jane Ash, and Robert Severance. Managing our technology are Elwin Nunn on camera, Mike Yasko and Claire Neal Wallace handling video streaming and audio. The Seekers Covenant group is offering hospitality after this service. All of us are delighted to be with you today. Unitarian Universalism has no creed nor dogma. We agree to live with one another according to the UUA's 8 principles and the congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms, and everyone is welcome. A lady pointed out years ago that we even accept left-handed people, and she herself was left-handed. You can learn more about our church at our website, uuchurchlc.org. If you're visiting with us today, we'd like to. It wasn't there a few minutes ago. Ah, all right. Okay. Really, it is drop C Sunday. If you're visiting with us today, well, okay. Shall I move this back? Okay. Um, if you're visiting, please raise a hand and I'll bring you a microphone. Please wait for the microphone uh, so the people online can hear you.
I just wanted to say my name is Mark Lewenberg. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay. He's not a visitor. Mhm. No one's pointing at you.
Good morning. I'm Patty Nevin. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm visiting Jan Thompson.
Hello, I'm Linda Darga. I'm from First UU Church in Detroit, and I'm visiting Jan also, and I'm the one with the misbehaving phone. And I apologize.
If you are visiting us on streaming technology and wish to identify yourself, please turn on your microphone and your camera and introduce yourself. Okay, we do not have anyone who's brave enough to introduce themselves. Thank you, everyone. We are very pleased that you have joined us today. Please fill out a visitor's card and drop it in the collection plate or leave your email address in the Zoom chat room so we can invite you to other services and activities at the church. Everyone here is invited to attend Unitarian Universalism communion with coffee, cookies, and conversation after the service, just down the breezeway. And I believe it's going to be outside today. If you're joining us on Zoom, just remain and you'll be participate in a chat room after the benediction. Today's chalice lighting is by the Reverend Rebecca Savage, Senior Minister at the UU Congregation of Rockville, Maryland, and a permanent member of the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on all our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals. Would you rise and say with me the affirmation of covenant and remain standing for the doxology in English and in Spanish? Love is the doctrine of His church. Thus, truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. All together in peace, and keep our freedom, to serve one and fear me. At the end of it all, setting the law into harmony, thus to be covenant with one another. Yes, I just have to turn pages.
Good morning, church. You all know me. I'm Kelly Ingram. This is my teenager, Scout. Good morning. This morning's Time for All Ages is titled Lessons from Geese.
Fact number 1. As each goose flaps its wings, it creates an uplift that helps that for the birds that follow behind. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock adds 71% greater range than if each bird flew alone.
Lesson. People who share a common sense of direction and community can get where they are going quicker and easier because they are traveling on the thrusts of one another.
When a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of flying alone. It quickly moves back into formation to take advantage of the uplifting power from the bird immediately in front of it.
Lesson. If we have as much sense as a goose, we stay in formation with those headed where we want to go. We are willing to accept their help and give our help to others.
Fact number 3. When the lead goose tries, it rotates back into the formation in another.
Yeah, you got it.
Somewhere here. Yeah. Another goose flies into point position.
Lesson. It pays to take turns doing the hard tasks and sharing leadership. As with geese, people are independent on each other's skills capabilities, and unique arrangements of gifts, talents, and resources.
Fact number 4. The geese fly in formation honk to encourage those up front to keep up their speed.
Lesson. We need to make sure our honking is encouraging. In groups where there is encouragement, the productivity is much greater. The power of encouragement to stand by one's heart or core values and encourage the heart and core of others is the quality of honking we seek.
Fact 5. When a goose gets sick, wounded, or shot down, 2 geese drop out of formation and follow it down to help protect it. Then stay until it dies or can fly again. Then they launch out with another formation or catch up with the flock.
Lesson. If we have as much sense as geese, we will stand by each other in difficult times as well as when we are strong.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our opening words today are actually something I've been thinking about for a long time. I think our faith might be one of the most difficult of all because our faith is in each other and it's in other human beings. And there are times, like our current times, when that faith just seems so impossible. But that faith is in the belief that given the choice, most of us will choose the good, but together we can make the world a better place. Does my faith waver from time to time? Oh, yes. But I always return to it because I believe it to be the only road to our salvation. Thank you.
Our opening hymn is by UU composer Shelley Jackson Denham. We Laugh, We Cry, number 354. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing together.
One of the ways we express our care for one another is through the sharing of joys and sorrows. Another way we do this is by lighting candles and silently saying to ourselves the joy, sorrow, or concern that we feel. As the music plays, please come up and light a candle to express your joy or concern.
I'd like to invite us into a time of meditation and reflection. And as you're comfortable doing so, if you're close your eyes. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Just let them out easy. And I invite you to find that small, still place at the center of your being. And rest in that place. Our meditation this morning comes to us from Wendell Berry. who wrote, I believe that the community, in the fullest sense, the place and all its creatures, is the smallest unit of health, and that to speak of the health of an isolated individual is a contradiction in terms. And as you leave today, I invite you to carry those words with you throughout the day and the week and the month. Maybe it'll shift your perception a little bit.
Our reading this morning is also by Wendell Berry. It's taken from the novel Jayber Crow. My vision of the gathered church that had come to me had been replaced by a vision of the gathered community. What I saw now was the community imperfect and irresolute, but held together by the frayed and always fraying, incomplete and yet ever holding bonds of the various sorts of affection. There had maybe never been anybody who had not been loved by somebody who had been loved by somebody else, and so on and so on. It was a community always disappointed in itself, disappointing its members, always trying to contain its divisions and gentle its meanness, always failing and yet always persevering, a sort of will toward goodwill. I knew that in the midst of all the ignorance and error, this was a membership. It was the membership of Port William and of no other place on earth. My vision gathered the community as it never has been and never will be gathered in this world of time. For the community must always be marred by members who are indifferent to it or against it, who are nonetheless its members and may be nonetheless essential to it. And yet I saw them all somehow perfected beyond time by one another's love, compassion, and forgiveness. As it is said, we may be perfected by grace.
Thank you. Y'all are so lucky and blessed to have a choir. Let me tell you. Many of us bring spiritual practices from other faiths or domains when we come to Unitarian Universalism. Some of those, like meditation or prayer, are shared around the world in all kinds of settings, including our faith. But are there spiritual practices that are unique to us? Can Unitarian Universalism itself use spiritual practice? The term spiritual was originally used within early Christianity to refer to a life oriented towards the Holy Spirit, to be animated by God, not one's personal needs or desires. And the term spread and broadened to refer to a wider range of experience, including those from a range of esoteric traditions and other religious traditions, as well as secular experiences. And so we now refer to the spiritual as the subjective experience of a sacred dimension and a concern with the deepest values and meanings by which we live. So intention and context matter when we talk about spirituality. But whatever their context, what we tend to agree on is what constitutes a spiritual practice, although some are more widely accepted than others. There are physical practices like fasting and vows of poverty and simplicity, chastity, mortification of the flesh, abstinence, trance dancing, use of mind-altering substances can all be deeply spiritual practices. And there are practices like meditation and mindfulness, journaling, the deep reading of sacred texts. They all find a home in this category. And all of these seek to purify the self of ego-centeredness and to identify with divine reality or something larger, perhaps unnameable, that we might call the spirit of life. But as you use, we don't seem to have any specific practices we can call our own. So we go to other sources or bring them with us, and that's okay. And it honors our complexity. I love the fact that we are a hyphenated people. We do have transcendentalism in our lineage. Transcendentalism was a generational revolt away from Unitarianism, which itself had split off from Calvinism only a generation earlier. And the Unitarians split with the Calvinists on largely rationalist grounds, but the Transcendentalists decried a lack of religious feeling and enthusiasm among the Unitarians because of too much rationalism. Emerson called the Unitarians of the time corpse cold and lifeless. One thing both generations shared was the idea of self-culture. And today we call it personal growth or spiritual development. But for the Transcendentalists, the spiritual practices that supported self-culture were simple living, immersion in nature, contemplation, reading, journal writing, and education. But for both, self-culture required not just the discipline to achieve that growth, but that these inner aspirations were manifested in outward action. One's ethical values had to align with one's outward behavior in society. Transcendentalism didn't go very far as a social force. It was just a little too individualistic, and quite frankly, it was more than a little elitist. But many of its ideas and ideals contributed to the evolution of our faith and we still honor those contributions. But we usually think of spiritual practice as something an individual does. I believe our core spiritual practice is the practice of community. And having an individual practice or practices is great, and I think necessary. But to be a UU means being in community. The community of our particular fellowship or congregation, our various human communities, and the still larger community of life on earth. Our ideal is the beloved community. And before I continue on the subject of community of spiritual practice, I wanted to say a few words about that. The term beloved community can be traced back to Josiah Royce, who was a 19th century American religious philosopher. His teachings were part of the curriculum at Boston University School of Theology during the early 1950s, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a doctoral student there. King learned of Royce through his mentor, Dr. Howard Thurman. Royce saw human communities as variations on the theme of loyalty, which he saw as the practically devoted love of an individual for a community. And that beyond the actual communities that we are directly encountering in life, there was also the ideal, beloved community of all of those who would be fully dedicated to the cause of loyalty, truth, and reality itself. Royce characterized the beloved community as a spiritual or divine community capable of achieving the highest good as well as the common good. Dr. King brought that concept into the heart of his ministry. According to the King Center, for Dr. King, the beloved community was not a lofty utopian goal to be confused with the rapturous image of the peaceable kingdom in which lions and lambs coexist in idyllic harmony. Rather, the beloved community was for him a realistic, achievable goal that could be attained by a critical mass of people committed to and trained in the philosophy and methods of nonviolence. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. In the beloved community, international disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation of adversaries instead of military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred. Peace with justice will prevail over war and military conflict. End quote. Well, the King Center notwithstanding, that seems pretty utopian to me. It seems to frame beloved community as a goal not achieved until all these things come to pass. But Royce saw the beloved community as those loyal to the cause of truth and reality in the here and now. The community of the here and now, as imperfect and flawed as it may be, every time we are together, we have the opportunity to practice those things that are only possible when we are together. Listening, forgiveness, generosity, tolerance, acceptance, and understanding, truth and reconciliation, humility, gratitude for each other, hospitality, negotiation, resolving conflicts, patience, reasoning. I include reasoning because I believe that reasoning is something we do better together. Might be the most difficult community practice of all. And a sense of humor is very key, particularly the ability to laugh at ourselves and with each other. Community that can't laugh together is in trouble. As we practice these things in our congregations, we are better able to bring them out into our larger communities. We come to see that social justice is only one aspect of the foundational practice of community. Even if your passion isn't social justice, the path of community can be practiced in many other ways. Just simply being good neighbors is challenging. Here's a few more words from Wendell Berry. In order to survive, plurality of true communities require not egalitarianism and tolerance, but knowledge, an understanding of the necessity of local differences, and respect. Respect, I think, always implies imagination, the ability to see one another across our inevitable differences as living souls. End quote. I also want to hold up the larger communities of the other life on Earth as the real foundation of our human communities, because without them, our communities wouldn't exist. Allow me one more quote from, well, maybe two from Wendell. He's kind of my go-to guy in community. Community, then, is an indispensable term in any discussion of the connection between people and land. A healthy community is the form that includes all the local things that are connected by the larger, ultimately mysterious form of creation. And speaking of community, then, we are speaking of a complex connection, not only among human beings or between humans and their homeland, but also between human economy and nature, between forest or prairie and field or orchard, and between troublesome creatures and pleasant ones. All neighbors are included. If we are looking for insurance against want and oppression, we will find it only in our neighbors' prosperity and goodwill. And beyond that, in the good health of our worldly places, our homelands. If we were sincerely looking for a place of safety, for real security and success, we would begin to turn to our communities, and not the community simply of our human neighbors, but also of the water, earth, air, the plants and the animals, all the creatures with whom our local life is shared. End quote. And of course, there are some real challenges to turning to these communities and being in community itself. The desire to make them part of our lives is not enough. Action must follow. Even though we are well-intentioned and capable, acting may mean changing, elevating our ordinary behavior. It might call for some extra effort, time, and work we are not always able or willing to give. Constant action can be tiring. It can deplete our reserves and leave us numb, unable to respond appropriately to people or events. We might choose to withdraw for a while so we can be renewed. Self-care must always be honored. And even if fatigue or numbing never occurs, there's the inevitable competition with other activities in our lives. The dynamic tension between our needs and the needs of others is always present. The work of beloved community may compete with our obligations to family, friends, or work, or other groups we belong to. Our acts of compassion or mercy towards others can take away from caring for family, for friends. Not all needs and requests, even the worthiest, can receive the attention we might like to give them. We have to prioritize or we can be overwhelmed. We're always in that place of tension between individual and community. But most importantly, we need to actively support each other in all of the spiritual practice of community. These are practices that need nurturing, practices that create much needed outcomes, practices that help us build the spiritual muscles of community, so to speak. We continue to encourage each other along the way. We continue to model these behaviors for others. Modeling is so powerful. We are each other's students and teachers without trying to outdo each other. We aren't in competition to see who can be more spiritual or more enlightened, more compassionate or more outraged. And we build on the experiences of others. Our association and many other organizations and traditions have plenty of guidance for developing community skills and best practices. But we should never let rule books and manuals get in the way of our experience and our local complexity. Communities are living things. They are not words on pages. I think Unitarian Universalism can be a deeply spiritual practice. Its path is the path of co-creating healthy communities. And that path leads not to the mountaintop, but to where the people gather. This sanctuary, the community center, the town hall, the sports arena, the field and the forest and the garden, and many other places. We walk that path together. We walk that path together. We weep and we laugh together. We pick each other up when we stumble. We share a reverence for each of us and all life. And despite our flaws and our failings, we persist. We persist in trying to become better people and create better communities. And in the words of Wendell Berry, we will somehow be perfected beyond time by one another's love, compassion, and forgiveness. May it be so.
Taylor Parker is enrolled in Yale Divinity School, and she calls the following a greater good for ourselves and the world. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope.
Closing hymn is Here Together for Going Forth. Please rise in body or spirit to sing together.
Closing words today come to us from John O'Donohue. For belonging. May you listen to your longing to be free. May the frames of your belonging be generous enough for your dreams. May you arise each day with a voice of blessing whispering in your heart. May you find a harmony between your soul and your life. May the sanctuary of your soul never become haunted. May you know the eternal longing that lives at the heart of time. May there be kindness in your gaze when you look within. May you never place walls between the light and yourself. May you allow the wild beauty of the invisible world to gather you, mind you, and embrace you in belonging. And if you'll join together in the words of extinguishing our chalice. And if you'll stay after the postlude for the benediction. And as you're comfortable doing so, please rise and join hands. This benediction is call and response. May love and skill guide our hands. May love and courage fill our hearts. May love and wisdom light our minds. May love flow through us and walk among us. As we live our lives and work to heal our world. Amen, Amin, Shalom, and blessed be. May it be so. Go in peace.